Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Book by Book blog, and I'm here with another Friday Reads. It has been a spectacular reading week. I am really enjoying my books. I've been reading mostly for Black History Month this month, and oh wow, I've just read some great books. I am currently reading a book I have wanted to read for years. Kindred by Octavia Butler. Now, I heard about this book many years ago. I've wanted to read it. Don't ask me why I didn't get to it sooner. I even thought that it was waiting on my Kindle. So when I saw that our local indie bookstore had chosen Kindred for its book discussion this month, I signed up for the book group and I told them, oh, I've already got a copy. Well, last weekend I sat down to read it, and I did not already have a copy. I had a different Octavia Butler novel on my Kindle waiting. Luckily, of course, the bookstore had plenty of copies. So I ran over there and picked this up, and everyone was right about how amazing it is, and I don't know why I waited so long. Okay, for starters, if you've been watching my book channel for a while, you know, I love anything that has to do with time travel, alternate timelines, time twisting, anything like that. Just, I find so fascinating and so thought-provoking. Well, this is no exception. So the novel begins in 1976 when a Black woman named Dana is unpacking in the new house that she and her husband have, or new apartment, I think it's an apartment. They're unpacking all their books, and all of a sudden, she gets dizzy, and she vanishes. And she finds herself in a different time and place, though she doesn't fully realize that yet. But she is back in, I think it's 1815, the first time it happens. So she is 26 years old, and all of a sudden, she is back in 1815 in Maryland on a plantation that has slaves. So obviously, she's in great danger, but she doesn't know what's going on. All she knows is suddenly she's not in her apartment anymore. She's on the banks of a river, and she can see that there's somebody drowning, a child drowning in the river. So she jumps in and saves him from drowning. He's a young boy with bright red hair. She pulls him onto the bank. He's not breathing, so she starts to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. And meanwhile, the boy's mother runs up, doesn't know what this Black woman is doing to her son and is hitting her. But she does bring the boy back to life, or, resuscitate him. A few minutes later, she goes back to her own time. So this begins happening to Dana on a regular basis. She doesn't know when it'll happen or what she might be doing. She tells her husband all about it. And her husband, by the way, is white, which was unusual in 1976, and of course, abhorrent in 1815. And I don't want to tell you too much more about what happens, because it is such a powerful story of this modern woman suddenly being back in the middle of slavery time. It's beautifully written and completely engrossing. I have been staying up way too late every night reading and then regretting it the next morning, but not really, because all I want to do is read right now. This is just so good, but it's also, like I said, such a powerful story. So I am thoroughly enjoying Kindred by Octavia Butler, and I can't wait to read more. Now, on audio, I am still listening to Black Boy by Richard Wright. Now, this is kind of a classic memoir that was first published in 1945. And obviously, as memoir, it's the story of the author's life, starting when he was a small child, like from his earliest memories. So Richard grew up in the South, in Mississippi, rural Mississippi. I think he's in Natchez when it starts, but he and his mom move around a little bit. And his father leaves them, and it took me a long time to figure out when it took place. I know it was published in 1945. And then at one point they say, well, everyone was celebrating the war ending. And I was like, World War II ended in 1945, so it's not that war. So I think that was World War I. So I believe it starts like during World War I, around the 1910s. And Richard is growing up poor and Black in rural Mississippi. His dad leaves them, so his mom is really struggling, trying to feed the family. She has 2 young sons, Richard and his brother. And things just go from bad to worse. Listening to it on audio is really an amazing experience, because even though obviously it was written so long ago, it is not Richard reading it. It feels like it is the author reading his own words. And listening to this story told in the first person is just really moving and powerful. What he went through during his childhood, his adolescence, and he was a smart kid. He learned to read, thankfully, and he wanted to be educated, but there were just so many barriers in his way. And, the way things were in the South at that time was just horrifying. There's really no other word for it. Now, when I think he was 17, he did move up to Chicago and later brought his mother and brother up there with him. But, it wasn't a great place to be Black anywhere in America at that time. So there were other problems, and then the Depression hit. This man just lived a really incredible life, an ordinary life at the time, but he tells his story in such a moving way. And I mean, it's not like melodramatic. He tells his story in a very matter-of-fact way. This is just the way things were. But listening to it now in modern times, it's a really stunning story. And I mean, it's also really depressing to think, in some cases, how little things have changed since then. I mean, obviously, some things have changed a lot, but other things, attitudes haven't always changed. So I highly recommend this book. Somebody, either on my blog or here on my channel, commented last week that they had a younger sibling. Oh, it was on my blog. He had a younger sibling who was reading this in school right now for Black History Month, which I think is a great choice. And I'm glad to hear schools are still reading it, because it's a wonderful book. So that's the memoir, Black Boy, by Richard Wright. Highly recommend it, especially on audio. So that's what I'm reading this week. I would love to hear about what you're reading. I love to talk books, so let me know in the comments down below what you'll be reading this weekend.